All right, let me show you guys some other stuff. So I saw this article today. Colorado students are being fed the poison fruits of critical race theory. This is in the Denver Post, and they're talking about the writings of Foucault and Derrida aren't being read by third graders, but the insidious theory is pervasive in equity teachings. And I don't want to read this whole article because it's like a little bit convoluted. But I wanted to just go down right here. So, closer to home, the Douglas County School District recently enacted a new equity policy. And we all know, right, that anytime they're saying equity, critical race theory and equity are like this. You cannot separate the two. So I've seen some school board meetings recently where like school principals or superintendents, they'll get up and they'll say, we're not doing critical race theory. We are doing equity, and we have an equity committee, but we're not teaching critical race theory. No. Critical race theory and equity are like this. You cannot have equity without there being components of critical race theory taught. And when I'm saying critical race theory is taught, I'm obviously not saying that the whole law school thing is taught, like the ideologies that exist in law schools. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like the tenets of critical race theory. If you're teaching equity, which is equality of outcomes versus equality of opportunity, then you are teaching critical race theory. Yes, Kieran is my extremist nutritionist. Thank you, Kieran. He keeps me up to date with hate literature. Dragon water. It's really tricky to deal with people when they don't feel like they're allowed to express their pain. It's a dangerous razor blade to thread. I mean, I agree with you, Dragon Water. I agree, and to some extent, like I do feel. Here's my position with the right now. We'll come back to this article in a sec. I'm gonna bring myself full screen. Here's my position with the right now is I understand that they're angry, and I like, but they're really angry, and it's making it extremely difficult for me to be on there, for me to support them in any way. Honestly, like the Republicans got extremely angry after the inauguration, and I can understand it, but when they're manifesting that by attacking me, I'm not going to deal with that, man. I'm not going to deal with it. I feel like they've gotten so angry, and I understand that they feel like they don't have, like, no one has their back and no one's standing up for them, and they can't say what they think, and they're censored and they're banned and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, if they're manifesting that by attacking people that are like ostensibly on their team for not meeting some sort of purity test, then they get what they flipping deserve. I'm sorry. I am sorry. That's how I feel about it. Like I gave up so much to fight back against this crap because I thought it was the right thing to do in the noble fight. And I get attacked worse from the right these days than I do the left. That's their own choice, man. They're adults. They're making choices for themselves. Can't control that. But let's talk about this article. Okay, let's bring that back up. Okay, so they're enacting this new equity policy, which we know when we see equity, we have to think critical race theory, and when we see critical race theory, we need to see equity because it's all about equality of outcomes, not equality of opportunities, because they're trying to destabilize the system because they want to enact their little Marxist paradise. So they paid the Gemini Group $37,000 for training for its execution of their equity policy. In a May training on systemic racism, implicit bias, equity, intersectionality, oppression, and microaggressions, Gemini consultants made it clear that equality is good, but equality also will not get us to equity. Well, they're right about that. Equity is about outcomes, and inequitable outcomes are the result of racist policies and implicit biases. Guys, bonus points in the chat. Who knows where this idea comes from? Who knows where this idea comes from that any disparity in outcomes, any inequitable outcomes are the result of racist policies and implicit bias? Who knows where that comes from? Pop quiz, guys. Let's see who's been paying attention. Six Semper Tyrannius says, when elements of the right start looking like the left, how can one justify replacing one form of hate form of hate with another form of hate. It's Spider-Man's meme. Yeah, you're right about that. And this is my big problem with it is like I left the left for a reason. And like people can like talk like Carlin changed her party like 3 times in a year, which is true. But like I left the left for a reason. I didn't leave the left to join the left on the right. I'm sorry. Like no, my tolerance for that is going to be naturally much lower. All right. So Peel says Bell. Actually, Derek Bell may have said it. I haven't read Derek Bell. I probably should. But says Semper Tyrannius got it. Ibram X Kendi. It's Kendi, baby. It's Kendi. That's who I was thinking of. Let's see. Dragonwater says, I agree, I think. I'm not defending the right. Really, what I am more worried about than anything at this point will create supremacist movements. I'm worried about it too, man. I'm worried about it too. I am very, very, very worried about the white identitarian stuff that I've seen. And I think it's going to get bad. And no one's doing anything about it. And no one's investigating it. And no one's reporting on it. And I think it's going to get bad. And that scares me. But I'm not a journalist. This is not my job. I accidentally kicked a hornet's nest. And now we need journalists to actually step up and act like journalists. And no one's been inclined to do that just yet. We'll see if they are. Naruto says, that's like saying I'm a Catholic, but not a Christian. All right, let's keep going with this article. So if you want to be the visionary leader that this city needs, talk about what educational equity means. Let's just think about that for a second. Educational equity. You know what I think of when I think of the term educational equity? I think of Harrison Bergeron. Who's read Harrison Bergeron in the chat? Type Y if you've read Harrison Bergeron. You know what I'm talking about. Educational equity. Says the chief academic officer at Strive Prep, a Denver public schools charter school. Alicia said in a public forum, it means rich white. Oh, check this out. It means rich white families in this city giving up something. It means reallocating resources to our black and brown schools. It means providing opportunities for educational equity for our black and brown educators. And that means potentially paying them more for being black and brown in our cities, in our schools. She literally just advocated. This is what does she do again? She is a chief academic officer at a public school or a charter school in Colorado. And she's advocating for paying black and brown people, educators, more just because they're black and brown. That sounds like a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act to me. But yeah, so it looks like Alexandra in the chat is the only one who knows about Harrison Bergeron. So Harrison Bergeron is a short story by Kurt Vonnegut. And actually, I was thinking about, guys, so I just barely, Kieran helped me test this out, actually. I just barely figured out how we can do movie night in locals. I have a tool that we can log on to and do a watch party. And there's actually a movie version of Harrison Bergeron, and it's on YouTube. And I was thinking our very first locals movie night should be this Harrison Bergeron movie because it's awesome. It's like not as good as the story, obviously, because they never are. But the whole idea behind Harrison Bergeron is like it was a society built on equity. It's a society built on keeping everyone at the same mediocre level. And so when it came to schools, what they would actually do is they would try to get the students to get C on their homework or on their quizzes because C is average. You don't want people to get A's, right? If they get A's, they're overachievers. If they get D's or F's, they're underachievers. So they want everyone to be at the C average. So what did they do for the smarter kids? But they made the smarter kids wear these headbands that would like fuzzy up their thinking so they couldn't perform as well on tests and things like that. So they were literally dumbing down the smartest kids in the class. Right? That's what they mean by educational equity. Is they're going to dumb down the smartest, most accomplished people among us to the mediocre level, but it's going to reduce disparities. That's the only way you reduce disparities. It's not about helping everyone up to the highest level of achievement because you can never account for that. Right? You can't account for if people are going to work hard, if they're going to show up, if they're going to try, if they're going to put in their best effort. You cannot account for individual merit, essentially. Like a dumb person can show up, do their homework, work, like read all the things, study, and they can get up to like an A, like a B or an A level, usually an A level because it's like easy to get A's now, but they can do pretty well. Like a dumb person can show up and work hard and do really well. A smart person can choose not to show up and not do the homework and not do the reading and do really shitty. Right? So you can never account for individual merit and work ethic in these things. And so when we're talking about equity, it's not about lifting everyone up, it's about pulling the smartest people down. Right? So that's what they're talking about with educational equity. They're literally talking about pulling the smartest students down. So maybe we'll do Harrison Bergeron movie night in locals because now I know how to do it. As if we don't have enough to do all locals already, but maybe we can do that sometime this week as like a nice little, as like a fun activity. All right. And guys, if you haven't joined my locals, kv.locals.com/support. That's how you join it. The information's down there somewhere. All right, let's like look at a little bit more in this article. Among DPS's equity practice, the district created belong groups that are intentional spaces for people with similar backgrounds, beliefs, and experiences to gather, celebrate, and create community. They're groups for teachers who are Black, Asian, Latinx, LGBTQ+, and deaf/hard of hearing, as well as teachers of Black students and teachers who are single parents or have blended families. For people who don't belong in the belong group. Holy shit. So I hadn't read this whole article. Oh my God, check this out. Check this out. For people who don't belong in these belong groups, there is a deconstructing privilege belong group that will provide all, especially white staff members, a space to recognize and deepen their understanding of the implications of whiteness, privilege, racism, and oppression. So if you don't belong to an oppressed group, they make you go to re-education training. Oh my God. This is real. They spent $37,000 on this. This is real. Oh my God. George Andre Veloso Nunez says, that's the result of Marxism. Bring everyone down to the same level instead of lifting people up in any aspect of society. Oh my God. What the hell is a belong group, says Janice. These are equity groups. These are equity. Let's read it again. Among DPS's equity practice, the district has created belong groups that are intentional spaces for people with similar backgrounds, beliefs, and experiences to gather and celebrate and create community. And what they really mean by people with similar backgrounds is you all look alike. Can we talk about how racist that is for a second? You all look alike, therefore you must have similar backgrounds and beliefs and experiences because you all look alike. And then they're segregating. And then they're segregating out. So they have belong groups for Black, Asian, Latinx, LGBTQ+, deaf/hard of hearings, as well as teachers of Black students. So if you're a white teacher but you have Black students, you get your belong group. Teachers who are single parents and have blended families, but for everyone else, they have a deconstructing privilege belong group that will provide all, especially white staff members, a way to recognize and deepen their understandings of the implications of whiteness, privilege, racism, and oppression. I can't. I can't. I can't with this. Six Emperor Tyrania says, sounds like white only and colored only. Well, it does sound like segregation, doesn't it? Well, haven't you heard segregation is now in? Segregation is good again. Let's keep going. Understandably, parents at Front Range schools are alarmed about the impact of CRT on the schools and their students. Rachel told me that her son's class was given a privilege checklist so they could reckon with their unearned perks of their identity. Students also read, so you want to talk about race? which contends that America is systemically racist. The book covers topics such as microaggressions, intersectionality, and cultural appropriation, among others. Maybe we should read that book. We should probably read that book. The impression her son took away is that all white people are racist, all men are sexist, racism is everywhere, slurs against white people are acceptable, and it is okay to stereotype white people. DPS parent Anne was concerned when her son's school proclaimed during a parent open house event the school would henceforth be an anti racism institution. Anti racism and critical race theory are also entwined. Can't separate the two. You have one, you have the other. She is unsure what that means or how the commitment will impact the school's existing foundational core principles of respect, responsibility, integrity, courage, curiosity, and doing your best. Well, under anti racist ideology, doing your best is actually a tool of white supremacy. So that's how that's going to impact that school value. Doing your best is a tool of white supremacy. It is too. The Smithsonian told me so. The Smithsonian said that hard work and meritocracy are attributes of a white supremacist society. Teacher and mom Amanda described a recent National Council of Teachers of Mathematics workshop she attended. Okay, pause. National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. She's a math teacher. Math. Let's read about this. That explicitly mentioned critical race theory and invoked the belief in a culture of whiteness. As a Hispanic educator who is earning a PhD, she resents the insinuation that a Hispanic woman is oppressed. Amanda is concerned that her district is adopting an equity policy that assumes the notions of white privilege. There are plenty of white students from hard backgrounds who are marginalized, she says. CRD contradicts the idea that every student is unique, precious human being who has talents and interests and who faces challenges in reaching his or her potential. Some students do have more challenges than others, and unfortunately, race is one of those challenges in a society that is not colorblind. Of course, we should provide resources to help students overcome these challenges, blah, 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 blah. Oh, they quoted Pluckrose and Lindsay. So you know this person knows what's up. You can tell this person reads Lindsay because he's using, like, this person's talking about the same philosophers that he talks about. But that's really it. That's all I wanted to show for this article. Crazy, crazy.